Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's YouTube video has got me back in the Fletcher for some good old Fletcher action. Because what week would be complete without me in this boat? The map is Atlantic, the battle mode is Domination. Fortunately for all of us, the Bastions match mode seems to be gone for good. It is a tier 10 maximum battle, and this game is going to be a bit of an uphill struggle. I can tell you that right off the bat. For those of you who were fortunate enough to catch my live stream some week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, then you will have seen this as the one and only game that I played in World of Warships during that live stream. So you already know what's going to happen if you caught that. As the battle gets underway, I have decided that I'm going down to the A cap point, and for the most part, the team has decided that we are going to push the A and B cap points. Now, my team has a triple Kharbarovsk division with the clan tag Sorry. So, of course, I had to open up the chat in this battle with Sorry, not sorry. As I get down here towards the A cap point, I begin to cap it, and I am uncontested at this particular moment. Now, given the detection range of the Fletcher and the size that this map has its scaling set to, that means that if I sit here anywhere in the A cap point, I have complete detection range in it. So if any enemy destroyer pops up in here, I'm going to see them, and of course, they're going to see me. So I do need to be careful. But at this point, most of the enemy team that's been spotted is fairly far away, as the enemy team successfully captures the B cap point. And of course, they're in the process of capping C, which tells me that at least one of their destroyers is up there. And that's a good thing, because the last thing I want to do is run into one of their destroyers. But of course, I'm now in position to sneak around from the side, and this is always one of those advantages in why you see destroyers on teams push into the A cap point, because at this point, like the C cap point, given that the B cap point is where the vast majority of the fighting is going to occur, a sneaky torpedo boat can get around behind you. Of course, I have the misfortune of running into one of the only tier 10 destroyers that I absolutely don't want to run into, and that's the Gearing, and he's taking shots at me. Luckily for me, he didn't actually manage to hit me, as I pop my smoke screen and I immediately break contact by turning away, using that smoke screen as a wonderful shield. I get shots out here at him, and of course I do have torpedoes off at him, but he is maneuvering hard, so it's unlikely that those torpedoes will hit him. But it is a target-rich environment back there. Of course, he zigs when he should have zagged, and I managed to nail him with one torpedo, securing a first blood in this game, surprisingly enough. Well, enemy Gearing gone, that reduces the number of tier 10 destroyers on the enemy team down to just the Kharbarovsk and the Shimakaze. Managed to set this poor unfortunate rune on fire as the friendly Kharbarovsk pushes through my smoke screen, and if he's intelligent, he'll go and use the Gearing's smokescreen to hide in while he continues to shell the enemy team. And he'll let me do the vast majority of spotting, since I really don't want to be in that smokescreen. Because, of course, smokescreens are torpedo magnets. And if you forget that rule for too long, you might find yourself susceptible to meeting the same sticky fate that that Gearing did. So I'm going to avoid that Gearing's smokescreen, and I'm instead going to push up here, and I'm looking at the target-rich environment that's back there. There are a lot of ships that are kind of circling around in this area, and while most of them are unfortunately just outside of my torpedo range, there are a few that look like they might sail into my torpedo range. So I get two different sets of torpedoes out here, going with a narrow spread because I prefer the mantra, if I hit you, I'm going to hit you for a lot of damage, more than one. And if I'm going to miss you, thus the case is a wide spread at max range, I might as well miss you altogether. But if I have the chance of hitting you, I want to hit you for as many of my torpedoes as possible. Enemy team manages to take out one of our friendly destroyers as well as a cruiser, and we managed to take out one of their destroyers and a cruiser on top of the destroyer that I managed to secure a first blood on earlier. This, of course, is only going to leave them with 2 destroyers left, and both of them are tier 10s. The only one that I'm really concerned about is that harbor off's back over there, but of course, the Shimakaze could be anywhere, and that is a fairly stealthy, sneaky torpedo boat. Looking at the situation, my team is up in the ship's lead, but not on points because the enemy team has 2 of the caps, and so long as they have these 2 caps, that could be a serious problem. Looking at the deployment of the ships that I can see, it looks like the B cap is fairly open, and I'm going to go ahead and start pushing up here. At the same time, I'm going to try and get torpedoes off. That Yamato looks like a prime target, but he's also kind of sailing away. That's when the enemy Shimakaze pops up, and this could be a really bad situation, as there's a lot of ships back over here that could, in fact, shoot at me on top of the Shimakaze. Shimakaze has gone to brown alert, running into a Fletcher, so he, of course, immediately slams on the brakes and pops smoke. And, of course, the enemy ships in the distance there, yes, I'm in range of those secondaries on the Tirpitz of all ships because of its secondary range buff. So I have to pop my smoke, slow down, and drop off detectability. But you remember that Shimakaze, he's in prime position. All he has to do is get behind the rocks. But he doesn't do that. So I managed to nail the Shimakaze with a torpedo or 2 and secure my second kill in the game. Of course, both of the kills so far, tier 10 destroyers. The Shimakaze, all he really had to do was start reversing because he had the island in the way, and the rocks would have saved him. If he'd even beached himself right there on those rocks, my torpedoes probably would have missed him. Now, as I back up here, I'm getting shots away at the Yamato, pretty much anything I could shoot at. The harbor off's moving very quickly, hard to hit at these kinds of ranges with the Fletcher's guns because of those gun arcs, because of those slow speeds. Now, I am managing to hit him, and it's about this point that I remember that, oh yeah, the harbor off's has torpedoes, and they might actually have some range to them. So I start the ship up, and that's exactly when, sure enough, those enemy torpedoes coming in, trying to slam on the brakes, turn, no, first hit on the bow, second hit on the bow leaves me with 1,000 health. But I'm still alive. In case you're wondering, yes, I do have the survivability expert on this ship, and that pretty much is the only reason that I'm not currently dead. But if you caught that right there, you'll notice that the first torpedo hit me in the bow and caused 9,000 damage. The second torpedo that hit me in the bow only caused 7,000 damage, and that's because the bow is now damaged, saturated. It would be a pretty safe assumption that if I got hit on the bow by anything at this point, it would do no damage to my ship. Of course, I don't want to test that theory, and given that I only have 1,000 health left, that pretty much means I'm not going to be gutsy and open up with guns. Fortunately for me, however, the enemy team only has 1 destroyer left, and that's the harbor off's, and since the harbor off's is effectively a light cruiser with light cruiser detection ranges, he's the only ship that could have possibly spotted me. But I can see him coming, and if I play my cards right, it effectively means that I can turn around and run away, get behind cover, or deploy a smokescreen and run away before he can get close enough to actually spot me and let somebody finish me off. Now, enemy team still up on points, but they're down on ships. But not by much. My team is only down by 1 less ship than the enemy team. But the enemy team is pretty much cleared out of the B cap point, so if I wanted to be a sneaky boat and sail right in here and start capping it, this would help my team greatly. Of course, I do have to be careful because once I enter that cap and start capping it, that is going to tell the enemy team that there is a destroyer sitting in this cap. And since the only other 2 destroyers on my team are harbor offs, it's a pretty good indicator which destroyer it is that's sitting in this cap. And if that harbor off that hit me with torpedoes has been paying attention, he's probably well aware that whatever destroyer he managed to hit in that smoke screen is very, very low health. There's the warning as the enemy manages to kill another 2 of our ships, and that puts them at over 800 points. Now I've got torpedoes out there at that Yamato, and it looks like I'm going to hit him with at least 1, and that would be fantastic. And I set him on fire on top of that. He's very low health, flooding on fire. Can I get the kill? Yes, I do. But pay attention to my torpedoes as they keep going. An enemy cruiser has popped up there, and he has got himself in a very bad situation as my torpedoes find him and nail him. Unfortunately, they nail him about 10 seconds too slow to secure me a double strike, which would have just been epic to, of course, go with my first blood. Still though, 1 cruiser gone, and that puts my team back in the lead for ships with a destroyer advantage. That Harborov's not having a good time of it as he's getting hit from all different sides and angles. I'm trying to stay a little bit more mobile in my smoke screen, trying to avoid getting hit by him if he opts to fire in here. Again, simply because I just cannot afford to take a single hit from anybody. Of course, with the Harborov's gone, that leaves my team in commanding position as the enemy team no longer has any destroyers, and there's now no longer a single ship on the enemy team that can spot me without me being well aware that they're there and have that capability. Effectively, the Zhao, the Tirpitz, and the other cruisers are in a position where, yes, they could spot me with Hydro, but if I keep my distance from them, and that's the idea, I can easily avoid getting spotted. Sure enough, there are torpedoes from the Harborovs coming into that smoke screen, and I'm glad that I bugged out when I did. Now, that enemy Zhao up there is taking shots, and those almost connect with me, and that probably could have been the end of me if they had managed to do that. So, if you find yourself in this situation, it's important to remember that you need to keep your distance from large target ships, because those ships are obviously going to take a lot of incoming fire, both secondaries and main battery, and with RNG's dispersion, some of those shots might fall short or go long and accidentally nail you. And that's the last thing you want to do, is give the enemy a sudden surprise pleasure of nailing the 1 low health destroyer with a random lucky shot. This enemy cruiser up here, he's not having a very good time of it as he's getting basically railroaded by both of our Harborovs. And of course, enemy Zhao, he's got torpedoes off. They are fairly short range, but I'm not going to risk it. And I turn, and I'm going to thread the needle nicely. And of course, they continued on. And I'm glad I didn't risk it, as they probably would have managed to impact me anyway, dying just after the location I would have been. I get torpedoes off there at the Tirpitz. It's basically just down to the Zhao and the Tirpitz on the enemy team, and they were doing so well. We've managed to pull the scores back on points, but we're still pretty close, and if one of these ships manages to kill me or kill one of the other destroyers, they can definitely turn that around. Of course, as this Tirpitz also starts shooting at a rune, that could also be the end of it, as the rune is worth more points. Use my last smoke screen here and start firing off shots, trying desperately to set this Tirpitz on fire. If you'll notice, I'm on 4 kills, and it would be wonderful if I could guarantee myself a Kraken. Tirpitz manages to catch on fire thanks to the barbecuing Harborov's skills, and all my torpedoes unfortunately miss as they pass him harmlessly to the side. Of course, this Tirpitz is getting awfully close, and I'm concerned because there's a smoke screen up here. If he's got any situational awareness, he might begin turning to try and get torpedoes off. But if he continues in the straight line, he's eventually going to proximity spot me, and I'm sure his secondary gunners would love nothing more than to finish me off. Now, he began that turn there, and I was concerned he was going to get torpedoes away, but it turns out the turn was to try and dodge the torpedoes coming in from friendly Harborovs. With him dead, there's no longer any threat to me over in this area, and there's just the Zhao left. Now, my team is in a very good position, and we don't necessarily need to go get the C cap point. But if that Zhao is able to pull a hat trick out of his ass and kill our rune, and it is entirely possible given that our rune is effectively playing chasey chasey kissy kissy with that Zhao through an island and is lower health than that Zhao, it would be a good thing to have that third cap so that the enemy team is not getting any more points and we can secure our points lead. At that point, then, all I and the Harboroffs on the team have to do, one of whom is also very low health, is effectively just play hide and seek until we run out the clock or win on points because we have 3 or at least 2 of the cap points. Of course, as I get my engine boost activated here, it looks like it doesn't matter as that Zhao gets a big ol' hit from torpedoes, and the Rune is going to finish him off for the win. Very well played by the Rune. 102,000 damage done, 4 kills, 2 devastating strikes, and a first blood. 578,000 credits earned in that battle. Why this battle was particularly impressive? Because it was a little bit of a come-from-behind win, but it was also the fact that I got hit by 2 torpedoes for violating my own rules regarding smoke screens being torpedo magnets. I was fortunate enough, though, that they both hit me in the same spot on the bow and damage saturated. Top of the team for XP earned at just over 2,000 base XP, but of course, look at that, the 2 Harboroffs in the division on the team, also 2,000 base XP, so 3 players on the team with 2,000 base XP all at the same time. Very good on our part. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and my channel, as well as gain some early access to these World of Warships replays and screenshots, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. Any level of support will grant you access to these replays. If you've got a World of Warships replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships live, among other games, usually about 10 a.m. on Sundays, that's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time, whichever time of year it happens to fall in, you can find and follow me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.